18% of our kids between 9th and 12th grade on a yearly basis think about suicide. 13% have a plan. 8% do something about it. 3% actually cause bodily harm, if not death.
Last month, 2 Shawnee Mission Northwest High School students took their own lives in the same week.
Those are numbers that are astounding. Those are numbers that in the 10 to 14 year age bracket has increased by 300% over the last 10 years in terms of completed suicides. These are numbers that across the country continue to escalate at a rate of about 30% over the last 10 years in all age groups. We're above average here in Kansas and Missouri too, in a bad way. 17, 18 per 100,000 every single year. Within a year's time, 44,000 people die by suicide in the United States, 800,000 around the world. In the United States, that's 1 every 40 seconds dying by suicide. That's astounding.
New tonight, a very disturbing trend. More of our children are choosing to take their own lives. And as KCTV5's Lisa D'Souza explains, a local woman has made it her mission to encourage parents to speak up about the problem.
A walk this weekend is taking on the issues of mental illness and suicide. The Speak Up Walk is tomorrow. Dr. Steve and Karen Arkin are joining us this morning, and you both have been touched very personally by this.
My name is Stephen Arkin. I'm a medical doctor in Kansas City. I am a neurologist. I work at St. Luke's Hospital, the entire system. My childhood was in Chicago initially, and then in the northern suburbs of Chicago, very similar to the Kansas City area in Overland Park. And I was the oldest of 3 children. My younger brother still lives in the Chicago area. My sister unfortunately died due to a car accident. She was hit by a drunk driver and died when she was 19 years old. The reason I went into medicine is because I had this love for science and math, and I like to work on puzzles. And I think that medicine in general is all about trying to figure out the answers and being able to help people where they weren't being able to help before, new medications, etc. I met my wife at a neurology conference. So I was doing my residency in Iowa City, and my wife was doing her residency at the University of Texas Houston campus. And we both had the opportunity to go to this conference in Palm Springs, California. So when I saw her in line, I said, I have to meet this girl, and we eventually did talk to each other, and we hit it off. We had Jason back in 1994 and Jennifer in 1995, separated by about a year and a half. They basically kind of emulated what we do, which is they like science and math, and both became engineering students in college. Raising children for us was a privilege, and we had a great time doing so. We tried to nurture them, show them what the value is of what life is all about, to show them the world. We were able to, and blessed enough to be able to go around the country and eventually going around the world and showing them things that about history and about what was happening in the world. And I think it was a global experience for them. And they paid it back to us. I mean, they were very kind and were able to enjoy that part of it. And they worked very hard at school, and that things were working out very well. Jason started out very early being a brilliant guy, and he was very sensitive, very knowledgeable. He knew right from the get-go that he had something special going on. He loved to read, and he would read things that basically adults would be reading, about Ulysses with James Joyce and Atlas Shrugged. And he got into that, and he was able to discuss on a level that was sort of an adult level. He did boy things too. He liked big machines, and he liked different things on television, and he was able to communicate very well. And I think that he had that insight to know what other people were thinking about. He was very sensitive, very, very special, and we found out from the beginning that he was going to be excellent. And he became Eagle Scout, he was on the debate team, he was on the swim team, he was in the top 1% of his class in high school. In terms of transition from high school to college, we did the standard going around the country and looking at colleges to go to. One of the things that he was looking at was artificial intelligence. And one of the features of Northwestern was that at the time it was the only place in the country that had a graduate program in artificial intelligence, and he was very interested in nanotechnology. So we looked at places like Carnegie Mellon and Purdue and Illinois, all with very strong programs. And not only did he love Northwestern and the campus, the fact that it was in Chicago was very exciting to him because we had taken him there to my hometown, and he enjoyed being there and was doing very well over the first couple of years there. He was a perfectionist. If he were to lose a game or that he didn't get his homework right or wouldn't get a perfect score, that he would beat himself up, and that he expected out of himself that he would be perfect. And that he felt, and he had writings to this effect later on in life, that his perfectionism was one of the things that he would change. And I think that it is important to realize, and he had difficulty doing so, is that you can't be perfect all the time, and that there would be competition later. He went to a presentation by, there was a family, a man and woman that had lost their son to suicide at an early age. And he took that all in. And when he came home, he took my wife aside and told her that they were talking about him, about what he felt was going on in terms of his depression and his anxiety. And that right from the get-go, we knew that we had to act upon that. And to let him understand, and we tried to, our very best, is to have him understand that if he did not reach perfection, things were okay. And that no matter what he did in life, we would be proud of him. And I think that at times he seemed to take that to heart, but at other times it was obvious that he still was working on the other side. So after he left to go to college during the time of his first, finals, he reached out to the psychological services at the school, and they talked to him by telephone. And after he had described what was going on, they said that he was too complicated and that he would have to go private. Or they gave him a choice of going on a waiting list for 8 weeks. So he had talked to them at the end of November, and his first set of finals were in December, and we knew that that wasn't going to work. So eventually he got through finals then, and actually while we were out of the country, he was doing finals in the springtime as well, and was having some type of a break. And we found out that he was struggling a bit, but he was still getting A's and B's and getting a 3.5 grade point average. And he went back to his sophomore year, and throughout the year he was doing fine until the end of May. And at the end of May, he contacted us and said, well, no, you guys have to actually come down here and take me out of here. And he had talked to the psychological services, and they had made that arrangement. And he came home between his sophomore year and his junior year and actually did some intense outpatient therapy and did transcranial magnetic stimulation, which is a non-medication way of treating depression. And he did great. He went from being on the couch for 45 minutes waiting to answer the doorbell to actually volunteering to go and get the groceries for us. So that was a very exciting time. He went back, and the 2 finals that he had missed, he went back and aced them at the beginning of his junior year. The morning of May 19th, we got a phone call, and that phone call was from the emergency room at Evanston Hospital, which is right next to the Northwestern campus, and they said, we have your boy here, and he, he's had a seizure. And we talked about it. And the first thing that my wife said is, did he take pills? And the answer turned out to be yes. And he was actually talking, and we drove to towards Chicago as fast as we can. But unfortunately, he had a heart attack, and eventually we had to make a decision about that while we were still on the road, ironically in Iowa City, to stop that. And he had coded for a good hour and a half. So we got to the Chicago area. We went to the hospital right away, and my parents were there. They live in Chicago still, and a friend of ours was there who was by his side the entire time, my brother as well. And we got to the nursing staff, and that's when we learned that he was actually the 4th Northwestern student had died by suicide in 3 weeks. And again, that just broke our heart more and more. Besides losing Jason, just seeing him there, just so peaceful, was just it was just an incredible emotion. You know, we sort of expected it in a way. It was the first time he attempted. He had said he had suicidal ideation. He promised us that he would not do anything. It's a difficult time. It's a difficult time to know that everything for 21 years died 5 days short of his 21st birthday. All of that, all that he was, all the potential was done. And it was a very difficult time to see him like that and to know that, darn it, the disease won. It was a tough time. It was right around Memorial Day. Hundreds, close to 1,000 people were at his funeral. His Boy Scout troop in full uniform were there. We had a receiving line that lasted for close to 3 hours. Everyone wanted to tell us what Jason meant to them. We found out that he actually consoled people because he knew what was going on in their mind. He knew what was going on behind their scenes, behind the facade, just like he had the facade. You wouldn't know it by looking at him. And they thanked us for it. There was an Eagle Scout in line, full uniform, that said, if not for Jason, I wouldn't be here today, and with this on my neck, meaning his Eagle Scout award, that he came so close to hanging it up when he was 11 years old. And here he was at 18 years old, 6 feet tall, towering over his parents, saying, Mr. Arkin, your son helped me by being in his tent for an hour just talking about his illness and about how he was going to overcome his illness, because he did know, and several people said he saved our lives because of it, but he couldn't save his own. One attribute that I could do without, it would be my perfectionism. Many may be confused with this statement. Is it not your perfectionism that has brought you so far, that has pushed you to do your best? Yes, it is true. No matter how I wish it to be otherwise, I believe that my most self-destructive quality is also the soul of my being. What would happen if I did not achieve my goal? I did not know. But in my perspective, I may as well have never been born. After he had died by suicide, we had talked to the Northwestern administration. We had the Vice President of Student Medical Affairs, and we had the Director of Housing, his counselor, and they were actually, in a way, indirectly promoting the stigma of suicide and depression. And we found that as being very deleterious to what we thought should be happening. For example, we asked them, so what did you tell the students at school about Jason and how he died? And they said, well, he died of a seizure. And that wasn't true. He died by suicide, and the kids really needed to know that. What we decided to do afterwards was we were trying to figure out a way that we could, in a way, honor him so that his death was not just a statistic. And what we looked at through the National Alliance of Mental Illness, looking at some of their literature, is that we found, or we felt, that there was problems with the transitions from middle school to high school, from high school to college, and college into industry, or directly high school into military, and to try to figure out how to understand the illnesses better so that we could work with people. See, a quarter of us have mental illness, and I think it's important to recognize, despite 3/4 of us not, that that quarter, people are very scared to identify themselves as having the illness in terms of how they are going to be seen by society. And so suicide prevention, education, and awareness for kids united as partners. So what we're trying to figure out is a way to involve children, teachers, parents, administrators in a program so that everybody's on an equal footing in understanding what the disease processes are, so that we can help understand and support each other to get through those processes in life that are dangerous in people that have the disease processes. See, suicide is a symptom of the disease. And what we have to do is we have to find out ways to treat the other symptoms so that that doesn't become an eventuality. We have to figure out ways to stop that. Some of my friends from high school, they knew what had happened. I mean, in this time of everyone knows everything within moments, it's several hundred people contacted me by social network to find out if it was true, what was happening, how can we help. And they even set up a team for Jason in Chicago to walk with the National Alliance of Mental Illness, and their walk to raise awareness of mental illness in a way that was very special, and walked with them in my hometown. Eventually this past year on Northwestern's campus, they allowed us to be there. And in fact, my wife was thinking about retiring and doing full-time work with this foundation that we were going to do that turned out to be Speak Up. We didn't know what the name was going to be at the time, but we knew something was going to happen. Something was going to come out of this, and that he would not have died in vain, because we needed to figure out a way to save others that were like him. Because we had to make sure that they knew it was okay to speak up and okay to say something about it, because it's very important to do so. And people are rising up. And we had initially 300 people to our first walk in 2015, and we had 700 people the year after that, and over 1,000 people last year. So what we do in Speak Up is we have speakers. For example, we brought in a suicide survivor, jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge, and he talked to 5 of our districts in town. And it was a very powerful message. But what we saw is that on the day that he was there, it was very enlightening and very powerful, but then he was gone. So what we wanted to do with our program is not only introduce speakers, posters, t-shirts, installations, ways to work with social network and potentially scholarships into the schools, but also have on-site resources within the school itself, but also people in the community that are also going to be involved and be able to be there if there is somebody who is in crisis at the school, be it at noon on a Tuesday or at 4 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, to figure out a way to get the support that they need. I mean, I have heard from people that will say, well, I don't want to go to my teacher and say what Tommy just said to me, because Tommy won't be my friend anymore. The problem is if you don't talk to somebody about it, Tommy won't be your friend anymore. He'll be dead. And I think that that's one thing that kids have difficulty understanding, the permanency of what's happening in front of them. Now, they can't do it by themselves. They have to know what the resources. That's part of the program, is to understand, know what the limitations are, to listen to what's going on, but to have a plan for what that answer is. And as long as we are able to inform the parents and the teachers that this is going to happen, then it's going to be fine. And the bottom result is it's all about saving lives. And so our mission statement is all about trying to educate people and using evidence-based information to try to reduce the chances of somebody dying by suicide. And the key is to keep people from getting into that situation, or if they get towards that, is they know they're slipping and they can have people to turn to. We know that out of everybody who dies by suicide, there's 6 people that are directly affected by it, and so you can multiply that. Everybody knows somebody, either personally or indirectly, who has died by suicide, who has attempted suicide. And one of the key things that we try to promote is that when we get that type of information, that we do have a plan. And if it means losing a friend or not talking to somebody for several weeks, months, years, that it is worth it in the end. And I think of everything that is happening with this whole movement that's now a couple years old, is that we have people that are interested. We have people that want to help. And we have now parents who understand that there are issues and that you have to sit down and talk to your kids.
But if one is dying at a young age, we must save them, no matter what the cost. If children are our future, then our future is dying before us. We must find George.
Here comes Jason and Daddy.
Okay.
Jason, you ready to go on the slide? You gonna do it again, Ty?
Yeah, sure. Here we go. You ready? One. Two. Three. Here we go. Wow! Oh. Yeah. Okay. Fun.